Today we're going to talk to you guys about the physics of addictions and open versus a closed system and how that relates to us as human beings and the dramatic effects that it has on our daily lives. I think Whitney has some stuff to read for us and we'll get to talking about it.
Closed systems view the environment in specific ways that in return triggers the true beliefs of the inner self to become more dysfunctional. Closed systems deny the environment is about them. They refuse to accept feedback from the environment, and they are very adept at even just ignoring the environment. A closed system continues to become more dysfunctional within itself while continuing to blame the environment for its dysfunction. Closed systems might feel safe and secure, and they might even appear to be functioning from its own view. Still, the process remains the same. They deny that they are denying. A closed system might not really lose anything. Still, a closed system will not gain anything either. And as we talk about closed systems are just an addictive system. And addictive systems mean we get addicted to our thoughts, our emotional responses, and we get addicted to behaviors.
Our beliefs, right? I think a really cool thing to point out is that we've been being raised by closed systems for a long time. And a really good thing to look at as far as an open versus a closed system are your beliefs and whether or not your beliefs are open to other beliefs. And we're talking about religions, politics, family beliefs.
Well, and even just start explaining these things. You might feel safe and secure. Let's talk about being stuck in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Whether it's at a job, at your house, in your relationships, you get stuck in a comfort zone. And then, we get closed off to stuff. We're not taking in our feedback to grow and change. And we stay stuck in a job. We stay stuck in a position. And that for sure plays into the entropy cycle. And, the difference between incremental change and transformative change, right? You address something then and then you just leave it. When there's more information in there for you to grow and change from it, there's more feedback in there, which is the difference between incremental and identity level change. And the entropy cycles versus negentropy, you achieve a goal, and if you're not continuing to climb and learn and grow from it, it's going to drop you down. And still, in order to achieve these goals, we get to be an open system.
And anytime we're talking about three elements, guys. Three elements, and we've talked before about what elements are and what systems are. And a totality is a system, and it's comprised of three separate elements. Each element must interrelate interdependently with each other element in order for the system to be functioning properly. And we're talking about the three elements of a closed system, which is a system. We're talking about the first element of denial, the second element of refusal, and the third element of repressing, right? And when we're talking about data and feedback and our senses, how this relates to us personally as human beings, we're getting data from our environment. And we're either denying the data is coming at us for any reason.
Based upon what you hear and see.
Yep. Refusing based upon
touch and energy and the way things relate and
right.
actions taken, and it's emotional.
Right. And anytime you as a human being are going throughout your day and you are denying or refusing or repressing any of the stuff out in your environment coming at you, then you're being a closed system. And first when I was learning this material, I was like, well, wait, what if something's coming at me and I completely disagree with it in all aspects? I can still completely disagree with something coming at me as long as I admit it, accept it, dialogue about it, question it, theorize on it, and express it through my behaviors, right?
Because there's still feedback in there,
yeah,
right?
But,
and if you're, even if it's, like what you just said, still, if you're acknowledging it based upon what you heard and said, and then you're accepting it on the way it relates, you're still theorizing, because anything in your environment still has feedback, and the difference between repressing and expressing is implementing those things.
Yeah.
Whether it's something that you don't necessarily agree with, there is still feedback in that information.
Absolutely. And what I'm saying is you don't have to take it on as your own personal belief. And what she's saying is absolutely right. You admit it, accept it, and theorize upon it and question it, and you come to a conclusion about the information or a decision about the information which propels you forward and is progressive.
repressing, if you're repressing the third element of any totality, the last element, and in a closed system, it's repression. And how often do we shove things down, right? Or we're not, and the opposite of repressing is expressing. And so even if it's something you don't agree with, and we can look at religion, because that's controversial for a lot of people. Everybody has their religious or spirituality beliefs. So in order to be open versus closed system, this religion's the only way to be, and that's what I'm sticking with. There is so much to be learned from getting to learn other people's belief systems. It's in society, like we look at it in our families and the way we grow up. Each system runs a different way. And as people come together as families or in a relationship, you've been grown up and raised two different ways. You get to learn to communicate and correspond and come up with things for your own family. And we have these traditions and standards we use, and you have these ones. So let's come together and figure out what works for us. Yeah. And because I've been closed off to it before, it doesn't mean there's not still information I can take from that and implement for my own growth and progress. And really that's about challenging closed system belief systems and being open to different ways of, I might not agree with that religion, but there's still some things that I can take from it and make it work for me, and being open. And even if it doesn't completely resonate from you, you can get to learn about somebody else. Mm-hmm. And different ways of corresponding with them and interacting and having a greater understanding of our fellow man.
Absolutely. And I really like what you said about information. The key is the most information gathered is going to be the best decision, right? You're going to have more choice through more information. And when you do your best to maintain an open system response to any data coming at you in your environment, you get to have a well-informed decision or a well-informed choice. And you kept saying, when I was hearing you speak, is the way. And intelligence is not the things that we know. It's the way that we have of knowing things. And when you are closed off to a specific way of gaining information, you're literally limiting yourself in your opportunities for progression. And that's what we're talking about, being a closed system. And you're raised by closed systems. And so, you are programmed through your environment, specifically your parents or the people who raised you, your brothers and sisters, your friends growing up, and you take on their beliefs. You take on their beliefs, and they run counterintuitive. Some of them run counterintuitive to your true self. You literally don't even know that you're closed off until you know that you're closed off. And that's the point when you get to begin working at being an open system. And that's to admit the data coming at you and to accept it, and then to express it through your behaviors and models, right? And we get to find out when we're being a closed system by paying attention to all of the things that we've discussed previously in these videos, which is your linguistics and your body language and your thoughts and your feelings and your behaviors. And these are all opportunities to get to know yourself on a deeper level and find out really whether or not you're being closed off in certain...
And all of this really is based upon the second and third law of thermodynamics. And, it's... The way we get programmed is through our worldview. We're taking in feedback from our worldview, and that feedback is for us to grow. And like he just said, individual, family, society, mm-hmm. Those are the elements of a worldview, right? And so I think it's important to talk about the elements of open versus closed. So closed system is deny, and that's based upon the things we hear and see, sound and sight. And then refuse is touch and the way we relate to things and energy, actions taken. And then repression based upon belief about character and our beliefs about how things work. And if you have the third element, you have it all. So if you're shoving stuff down, you're a closed system versus an open system that admits, right, based upon the things they heard and said. And it can be easy enough as just acknowledging, right? Instead of saying, oh, I didn't see you do that, or I didn't hear what you said, or or selective hearing that we get to have sometimes, right? And then the second element is to accept. And all accept means is to theorize upon it, Take a minute and sit back and look at it emotionally and what's coming up and come up with these plans, based upon the things you heard and saw. You just get to acknowledge this information and come up with what it means for you. And then the expression part, based upon our beliefs about character and our beliefs about how things work, that's literally our expression is about implementing.
Yeah.
And when I first learned this stuff, I'm like, oh, I can express myself real good. I'm totally open. I'll tell you what I think about you for sure.
Right.
And that's the difference between open and closed, is it's a continual feedback of this energy, right? A closed system has these boundaries that are closed off. We have these walls built, don't come at me that way if you don't want to hear it, or, you teach people how to approach you or what's okay and what's not. And that's all based upon you being stuck in your comfort zone and stuck in a place of pain and hurt, and versus an open system that their boundaries are permeable. And a lot of us up until this point thought we knew what boundaries were. Yeah. Oh, I have these boundaries. Yeah. And really, to be an open system, our boundaries are permeable. And what that means is, as we're acknowledging, admitting these things we hear and see, and we're accepting and we're dialoguing, then the expression part is literally implementing those things based upon what we heard and saw. And if we're being an open system dealing with a closed system, it's difficult. That gets to be everyday life at this point. And so us remaining open, and you can look at it in points of, in the book it talks about, going to school and there's a child carrying a gun at school. And so the school goes and puts up, the gun, the metal detectors. And they think that's an open system response and they're dealing with the problem. Right? That's closed off. Oh, we're just going to check everybody that comes in the door. Instead of addressing why this child thought that he had to bring a gun to school and what's going on with that child. And, as we're both addicts, the way our families chose to deal with this. They're not addressing the actual addiction. It's locking the doors and changing the locks and giving us gift cards for holidays. And it's not addressing the actual issue from an open system standpoint. Mm-hmm. It's, I'm going to fix this and this, but it's kind of like, oh, I'll do this, but not that.
And really, those boundaries that your family put in place are closed system boundaries. And they're thinking, okay, well, we can't enable them, and we're just going to, not go pick them up if they call, or not give them money when they ask for it. And all those things are healthy. Still, there's a different approach.
So what they teach us, or what we learned is, if you have addictions of any kind, you were raised by a closed system, and that means in families, emotional responses, belief systems, right? And if you have addictions of any sort, whether it's a mental addiction, you're addicted to your thinking, whether it's negative thinking or whatever, you get addicted to those thoughts. And then our emotional responses. We get addicted to our emotional responses, and then we get addicted to our belief systems and even physical addictions.
Your subconscious mind literally stores and governs emotions. It governs self-talk and self-image. I mean, just based upon what she said, you're running automatically on all of these limiting programs that you've developed through your life's experiences. And you close yourself off. I mean, just in the segment that we recorded last week about body language and movement has meanings and sensory blocks and health model map. I mean, all of these blocks are literally products of you continually denying, refusing, and repressing in your conscious response to the data coming at you in your environment.
So in here it has the definition of addiction. And if you were a closed system, you are an addicted system. So addiction is a compulsive need for and use of a behavior or habit-forming substance characterized by tolerance and by well-defined psychological symptoms upon withdrawal. And that happens when you change your thought process. You literally go through a detox from your thoughts, from your emotional responses. If you start responding different in a situation that you normally responded angrily in, and then all of a sudden you were compassionate, your body would literally withdraw from that.
It's a shift in all aspects of your system. One thing I would like to point out is when she read that addiction is a compulsive need, And if you were, watching this screen as you are now, and at any point you said, "Oh, that's not me," or you denied what you were hearing about an addiction, right? That is literally a closed system response, and it keeps you away from looking at yourself honestly and improving. And this is what we're attempting to teach our audience, is that in any instance when you feel inclined to say, "No, that's wrong. I'm not even going to look at that." Or I'm not even going to acknowledge that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not addicted to anything. I don't use drugs. I don't drink alcohol. I don't eat. I exercise regularly. You can be addicted to exercising regularly. You can be addicted to especially your emotions. I mean, when somebody tells me that my subconscious mind is in charge of governing my emotions, and I know that my subconscious mind runs automatically, then any emotion that I feel right now is an automatic response from a situation from my past. And so if you've, like I said, heard this information and at any point said, "No, this isn't for me, I'm going to change the channel," it is for you, because you're being a closed system as you deny the information, as you repress it, as you refuse that it has anything to do with you.
What's the difference between being an open system and being completely gullible or naive?
Well, and that's the part about theorizing about it and dialoguing about it and questioning. You are an infinitely intelligent, capable individual. You are the universe. The universe is made for your success.
But within that, gullibility and naivety is literally innocence, right? You're not programmed in those sense. So if you're literally naive to it, you don't have a reference point to it. Right? But if you're denying, refusing, and repressing versus being naive and innocent to it because you don't have a program for it, or you don't have a reference point, so you're not even able to see it. So you're viewing literally what's going on inside of you. It is, wow. You're viewing things based upon yourself, and that's the other part about closed versus open system. The way you were responding, and we become closed off because of pain and hurt that we've been through in our lives. And our best coping skill, for me, was you shut down, and you're so scared of getting hurt again that you put up these walls and think you're protecting yourself. Right. And that's what we're getting into too, is tolerance indicates an ability to endure pain and hardship, and those things that you thought you wouldn't put up with, and then all of a sudden you're dealing with it. And because you've responded closed to it and not found the purpose in it and grown from it, you harden up, and those walls get taller and harder to break through. And the more it goes on, and that's what it talks about, you will literally implode, right? It's literally the laws of thermodynamics. This is the same science as the atom bomb was created from. You'll burst from the inside out. That feedback's fighting to come in and break through these walls that we put up through our closed system boundaries, and it will get through. Those natural forces get louder and louder, and what it's working to do is get you to overcome those limiting beliefs. And this energy is going to get through. So when they say your identity bursts or the atom bomb goes off, you're literally living outside of yourself. And you think you've become all these negative things, right? You're living outside of who your true self really is. We're the most intelligent beings on the face of this earth, and we get in our own damn ways. Yeah. And so open versus closed you're going to implode eventually. Those natural forces are going to come into play, and your identities burst. And we talk about like the helpless, hopeless, and worthless. Oh, I can't do that. That's just me. I'm not able to do that. Or, I'm just a piece of crap, or nobody likes me, or, and that's absolutely not true. But those are those belief systems that you've taken on as your own, and you think that's become your identity.
Yep. We're talking about worldview feedback coming at you, and a lot of people they experience feedback that's negative in its nature, in its structure, its pattern, and its process, that they're going to close off to it and build a wall against it to protect themselves, right? And as we build these walls and keep them fortified by our denial, refusal, and repressal, what she's talking about is the universe is designed for your success. You are the universe. So when natural forces come into play, and start battering on your boundaries to get them to come down, that's you creating these anomalies through your own conscious perception to get your true self to come out. That's what we're talking about, a closed system boundary, right? And this feedback, this data that we're talking about, these anomalies, things that run counter to your, that upset your daily reprieve, or whatever it is that you want to think of an anomaly is. An anomaly in the physics world is something that is outside of the norm, right? It's an anomaly. And so these anomalies come at you to get you to open up, to get you to make these boundaries permeable so that you can start admitting, accepting, and expressing the data. And so you can challenge the beliefs that you've been standing upon your whole life. You can challenge the way that you view things, the way that you hear information, right? If it's coming up negative and messed up and making you feel emotional, you could be closed off to something. And that feedback is designed for you to get to look at yourself and the world honestly, and to get those boundaries permeable. And like she said, if you don't start admitting, accepting, and expressing the anomalies and working them through and processing them appropriately, you're going to cave. And these caves could mean you get arrested and wind up in jail. You come up with an extreme emotional or a health issue like cancer, or some extreme health trauma goes on in your life. And once you're laying in that hospital bed and you're going, oh, okay, and you start to look at the world honestly. I mean, for me, my example is going to jail. I've been to jail several times in my life, and every time I ever went into jail, I'd get on the phone with my mom and dad, and I'm so sorry, and I can see what I was doing wrong, and it's because my boundaries have come down, and I can now see my life circumstances for what they really are, instead of what I've built them up consciously to be, which is a false, and it's a farce, and it's extremely unfortunate the way that it happens.
Well, and there's so much to look at it. Addicted systems, we can relate well with, the actual, substance abuse addiction and those things that it's caused us. But you get addicted to relationships. People get addicted to being workaholics, right? You get addicted to being successful and making money. Mm-hmm. And it might seem like you're being successful. You have a great job, you make money, you got the nice car. Okay, are you happy?
Right.
Are you truly happy and experiencing joy in your life? And that's a big difference. You might not be in jail. Are you happy? And that's a big difference. And, how many of you have stayed in a job because you know the way it works, you know what you go in and do every day, and it's just the same old routine every day. And you're good with it. It's not a bad job. You make okay money. You enjoy some people you work with. You don't get along with others, but you're just good there.
Or are you just tolerating it?
But then you lose the job or something happens and you're like, oh my gosh, why did I stay in that job for so long? It doesn't have to be end up in jail or in prison, right. Even though that happens in society. You get stuck in relationships and by not, you could end up divorced, and that might be the best option. And still, there could have been so many different ways to communicate and be able to see, because these two people are raised in different families and different systems and grew up with different beliefs. And so by being able to correspond and be open systems and communicate effectively, it could, really address a lot of different things. And the divorce rate could go down, my friends.
So, and really what we're talking about when the system implodes on itself is a literal implosion of your boundaries, right? But we don't have to get that far. Like Whitney just said, we don't have to end up in handcuffs. We don't have to end up in divorce. We don't have to have some extreme health issue or some world event that makes our whole life crash down or lose our house or whatever it is that's a calamitous event in your life to get you to kind of recognize life as it truly is instead of how you've created it. You can start at any point in your life. Right now, you can start working at admitting, accepting, and expressing, and being an open system, right? And you can do that at any time. You don't have to wait for the crash. I mean, you've heard us say before, if you're not happy and experiencing joy on a continuous basis, you don't know who you truly are.
Well, and if you take time, like he just said, you don't have to get to a total implosion to get to that point, right? And if you've experienced that implosion, or we call it a rock bottom that we've hit, the far from equilibrium state, That's an opportunity to take direction from your past and look at those different anomalies, right? We've got a few different totalities for disorder, which the disorder is what creates us. We create disorder in our lives. So is it a similar anomaly, a deviating anomaly, or is it complete randomness chaos, right? And just having a simple conversation with something or addressing one small thing that comes up, even you can compare it to your car, right?
Yeah.
You go out and your car's not starting. Okay, I left my lights on. Right? I can address that. That's a similar anomaly for me because I often leave my lights on. And then I go out and my battery's dead. I can jump my battery. Eventually, leaving the lights on continually and then not addressing the reason I continue to leave my lights on, it's going to affect my battery and it's going to kill my battery a lot faster. And it could lead to other problems in my car. So if I were to just address the reason that first time or second time I left my lights on when I got home, I wouldn't come out to a dead battery and have to jump it, and then I wouldn't have to replace the battery soon enough, and then I wouldn't experience other problems in my cars. How many times can a simple conversation start out like that before it leads to a big blowout? How many times are you shoving offenses down or things people said to you or the way you felt regarding it that you could have addressed there, but you just let it build up and build up and build up until it becomes bigger and bigger? We get a ton of feedback in our environment all day long, and really by getting to know yourself, it becomes, you can really look at worldview, self-view, and see the ways you process that information and really sit down and question yourself. And for me, reading this book and teaching this course, it's like I get smacked in the face all day because it's pretty hard to be an open system in all situations at all times, and nobody does it perfect. And every time I read this book, I can look throughout my day and it's like, okay, that was pretty close. And still, the important part is once you recognize it, you can go in and fix it. You can go apologize. You can address, because if we're not being honest about it, how do we expect to change it? We got to acknowledge it in order to change it.
Yep. Well, let's talk about another similar anomaly. Like if you're a mother or a parent and every morning your kids are waking up late for school and it's becoming a similar thing every day. It's the same repeated. You can either yell at your kids and tell them that they need to get up on time, or you can start changing the routine at night and making sure that your kids are well cared for and put to bed on time and fix the problem within the family instead of trying to address it on a daily basis, screaming at your kids. And the problem's going to get worse and exacerbate, right? Pretty soon your kids are going to be getting kicked out of school because they're late all the time and they're tired. And we get to address these issues by first looking at ourselves individually, seeing what we could do on a daily basis to improve the way that we respond to anything that's happening to us in our life. Our response is everything, our conscious response to any of the data coming at us, right? And then we can address it on a higher level. We can address it on a family level. We can address it on a community level. And as we seek to address these closed systems on higher levels, then they start to correct themselves on the lower levels. Still, we can work on ourselves as individuals, and we contribute to the whole by doing that. Right?
Well, and it's important to remember, like you just said, kids waking up late all the time. Even as you're being an open system, just because we're going to go to bed earlier, that might not work. And that's the whole purpose of being an open system. It's a continual flow of energy and feedback that you keep, this is what I heard and saw. Theorizing upon it, I'm implementing it. This worked, that didn't work. I'm going to, and you begin to transform it. You delete something out, insert something in, and you move it around. And that's the elements of transformation. There's really using these totalities and these elements to apply to different things in my life that I've struggled with, and practicing them through implementation of putting some of these elements together, changes direction, question, model. As I'm dealing with the closed system and still I'm practicing choice, take action, take no action, let others take action.
Right.
And I'm being an open system, admit, accept, express. So I'm admitting the way I was in my past, I'm looking at it. I'm taking action on it because that didn't work for me back then. So in the present, I'm theorizing upon my emotions and accepting, what I heard and saw, and I'm coming up with these. And then, I'm implementing it. I'm expressing it. I'm role modeling for my future. I'm being myself, you know, and then I let others take action, and then I continue to take that feedback in. I'm doing myself, I'm modeling for somebody else, I'm expressing what I'm seeing and hearing and expressing my theories and implementing them, and I'm moving around and changing them, and then what other people choose to do is about them. And what I choose to do with that feedback's about me. And you're constantly going to get feedback. It doesn't mean just because we're an open system, it's going to work out perfect every time, because everything's a growth process. And there's more feedback to grow and change from, and we get to keep looking at it, you know? Is it the kid not getting enough sleep? Is he watching something on TV? Is it something he's eating?
Right.
Is he doing something different at school? There's a multitude of, you know, variables that are quantity and exponent in our worldview that we get to integrate into our self-view to grow. You know, and going to bed early might help for a little while, and then it starts to happen again. Okay, let's look at something else and work that in. But you're remaining an open system by looking at all the variables or the quantity and exponent in the environment, the feedback in the environment.
I think a really simple thing that you can start doing if you're new to all this stuff is find opportunities in your life's experience where you can do different or react differently in same or similar situations. If you encounter a situation throughout your day that brings up some negative type feelings, question that, theorize upon it, get down to the bottom of it. And if you can't right then, you know, do something else that you wouldn't have done normally, right? And that's you're challenging, potentially challenging a belief, you know, right? And if you're intrigued by any of this information that you're seeing or hearing, please investigate this material, the Holographic Human Transformation Theory. This is the third book, The Physics of Addictions, Open versus Closed Systems. There's also the Human Experience, Conscious, Subconscious, Physics of Success, and the Physics of Correspondence. It's a 5-book series written by Janie Marvin, and all of this material is written throughout those books, and it would be a great opportunity for anybody listening to this to really get down to the bottom of themselves and start to know themselves on an intimate level. It's amazing stuff.
And remember, what you resist persists.
What you resist persists.
Amen.